3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 101.
101.
101. I want everybody to take a look real quick at Josh's glasses that he has on right now.
Am I looking at the camera?
So these were a Christmas gift to myself by my mother-in-law. These are very high tech.
Oh yes.
These are 90-degree glasses.
Dude, I can't do this, man. Oh.
They make you look straight down. They're intended for reading in bed. So when you're laying there, so instead of holding the book like right over your face like this, where you ever do that, or you're looking at your phone and then you just fucking drop it right on your face
Every time, dude.
Done it a million times. So instead of that, you could lay there and you don't have to crane your neck or anything. You could just stay nice and good posture and just keep the phone right here. And this is it.
Dang.
This is it. Hold on. Can the camera see it?
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
It's high tech.
Yeah.
High tech.
Yeah, they're something else, that's for sure.
So I gifted them
Yeah.
to Josh to gift to Devin.
Yes.
Because ironically, as Josh saw them, he's like, Devin's been wanting a pair of those. And I said, you know what? Merry Christmas.
Here you go.
Here you go. You could have them.
Look at that. The world works in mysterious ways.
So here we are. It's that awkward time between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
Everybody's still kind of in the holiday spirit a little bit. We still got something to look forward to. Everybody really only works for fucking 4 days, like in between the two. That's where we're at.
It feels, I think, like, especially this year, I don't know if it's because of the snowstorm and didn't really see a whole lot of family, but I really am feeling that, like, weird void this year in between the holidays.
It's kind of awkward.
It is.
It hasn't been for me because I leave for one more trip tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Real short little guy, quick little New Year's trip. But because of that, it has been very busy days the last few days. Just in like, let's squeeze as much as we can into these. And I'll tell you, dude, these last couple of days, I feel like have been like the most productive days I've had in a long time. Because I haven't had a ton of lessons. Yeah. Because I think that time in between, there's not a ton of people looking to do lessons within that time. Everybody's still kind of either out of town or in the holiday zone, or they're busy on their end or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So I've just been able to just go in and just fucking get shit done.
Grind.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like I think, what was it? I think Tuesday, right? So I took off Monday, the day after Christmas. Tuesday I went in, and I had one lesson in the morning. I was supposed to have one lesson in the evening. Mm-hmm. My evening lesson canceled. So I went in, I had a 10 o'clock lesson, got that done, and then from like 11 to 7 I was just able to just flow. Yeah. You know, go in, bunch of calls from over the holiday that I had to hit, go around, just see how things are going, notice, hey, little issue there, let's make some adjustments here, little issue there, let's make some adjustments here, just get shit done. It's very productive.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
Is it reminding you of like when you first really opened Miracle again, you were just having to do everything, run around?
No, it wasn't even that, because it wasn't like this like stress of like needing to do all of these different things. It was like a able to look at things with like just like a nice clear mind and not feel super rushed or anything.
That's good.
Just do stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been it.
That's good. I love that.
So what's new on your end?
Well, January, seems like it's going to be hitting the ground running for me. Yeah. So, got 2 new clients, probably 1st of January. Bar 32, if you've ever heard of them.
I think I have.
Yeah, they're on the top of the Hilton there in the Flats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the rooftop.
It's not the Flats.
Or whatever it is, downtown.
It's just downtown.
Yeah, downtown on there.
Above the convention center.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, I went there for my bachelor party, and it was horrible.
Oh, God.
Not the place. The place was fine. The place was fine, but I just didn't want to go. I had the most boring bachelor party in the world, for anybody that cares to know.
Oh, no.
Literally, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what do you want to do for your bachelor party? What do you want to do? I said, there were a couple things. I wanted to go to Frank's Falafel House in the morning for breakfast, which we did.
Okay.
Went there, met up with the guys, and we just ate some really good breakfast.
Yeah.
Real low key.
Okay.
Slept in. It wasn't too early. It was like 10 o'clock, something like that, 10:30 maybe. Mm-hmm. Then I said, I want to go golf at my favorite golf course. We went to Valley of the Eagles, and we played there. It was like a 5-hour round of golf. Had a great time. Didn't drink at all on the golf course because, like, I'm so new at it still, and I'm, like, not that good at it. So, like, drinking while trying to do something you're not that good at doesn't usually go very well. Plus, it was, like, blazing hot, I think, if I remember.
Okay.
Did that. Then they're like, well, what do you want to do next? I was like, I want to go get a burger. Went to Buckeye Beer Engine in Lakewood. Solid burgers. Got a burger. And then all I wanted to do after that is I wanted to just go to, like, Masthead or a brewery or something and just have a couple beers and then go home and go to bed. And then, like, half of the people there were like, no, we got to go out. We got to go out. So we wound up at, was it Bar 31?
32.
32. Went there. It's like $25 a drink or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think I had 2 drinks, and then I left and went home. And then went to bed.
Damn.
That was my bachelor party.
But it was like that forced. Like, you're like,
everything was great up until that point. They're like, we gotta go there. All right.
But I don't know. So, they
they hit you up though?
Yeah, they hit me up.
That's cool.
And I don't think
is that like an independently owned place, or is that owned by the Hilton?
It's owned.
Like, does the Hilton reach out to you about that, or like?
She's like the overall marketing person for like that Hilton, because they have like a little bakery. They have another like restaurant downstairs or something. But so it's kind of like the same thing with Intro, I guess. You know, it's all blanketed over. It's like Hilton and then like Hilton Hospitality or something like that. So, but she's the one that hit me up, and she said she felt embarrassed because when I threw out all those emails a long time ago, they were one of them that I sent.
Really?
Yeah, and she's like, I feel so weird. So she's like, I just saw your message now because, you know, I just saw your work and I thought you'd be perfect for this. She's like, but I can't believe I never responded to your email. And I was like, it's okay, but, you know.
Here's my rates.
Yeah, here's my rates now.
Funny.
Exactly. So that was pretty cool. And then
this just goes to show, guys, if you own a business, check your goddamn emails and DMs. Just check them, right? Yeah. And if you're not going to be able to check them, appoint somebody else to check them. And here's the other thing, too. Even if you think it might be spam, if you don't know who it's coming from, just glance over it.
Look at it
to make sure.
Yep.
I feel like there's been plenty of times. There's some people, and sorry to keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
But there's some people that reach, like clients, right, potential clients that reach out, that their emails, just the way they write them and the titles they put on them and stuff like that, if I didn't actually read it, I would have thought it was a spam email and just just the way, like, it was like almost like too professionally written, and like they were trying to sell me something or whatever, but actually they were just looking for dog training.
Yeah.
And if I didn't read them, wouldn't have been a client.
Wouldn't have been a client.
So check your emails, guys.
Just check it.
Check your DMs, too. A lot of people reaching out with the DMs.
Yep. That was me. But yeah, so, and yeah, when you say that, it's like, if they would have hit me up back then, I mean, I think my rates at the time were like $500 or something. Like, you know, so, things have upgraded a little bit. But other than that, Pompadour is, hopefully we're going to get some work together here in January, and then, got a meeting to re-up with Intro, and this is all like first week, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be busy.
Starting out strong. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Slick.
Yeah. Episode 101, too, by the way. Isn't that crazy? We passed the 100 mark.
It's wild times.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're going to just kind of talk about some stuff, I guess. So, you know, random episode. So a couple things, right? So last week we wound up having a pretty solid episode. We were talking about a lot of the general theme of it was misconceptions as far as expectations with board and train programs and what you get out of them and how much work is entailed in them and do they fix dogs, do they not fix dogs, et cetera, et cetera. It was just it was a strong episode where we used a lot of real life examples of dogs that have recently finished board and train programs with us to explain to people what the expectations are and how these board and train programs how much work really could wind up taking you once the dog goes home. And we used examples of dogs that did really well when they went home and dogs that didn't do so great when they went home. And, the different variables and factors as far as why that was the case, right? So it wound up being really cool. I actually had a good amount of people reach out to me and send me emails just talking about how they really enjoyed that episode. I think it was, for a lot of new trainers, one of the common themes I would say that I see people reach out about as far as people looking for help, and even using like personal examples of when I was first getting started with this, when I was doing my first year of owning Heights, I did so many virtual consults with people. I was reaching out to everybody that I knew that looked like they were running a successful dog training business, and I just reached out to them and just wanted to pick their brain. And one of the common things that I was doing was like, how do I was looking for solutions as far as how do I avoid a lot of the issues that I feel like I'm experiencing, which is obviously a great state of mind to have. You want to make sure that you're looking to improve on anything that seems like it's a problem. But what I was really looking for was, what is the magic solution so that when people do these training programs with us, whether it's board and train, whether it's one-on-one, how do I avoid any problems once the dog goes home? Which the more I dug into it and the more I did these virtual consults and the more the years went on and I improved the work I was doing and stuff like that, you start realizing that there is no magic solution for that, right? These are a way of life, right? These issues that you may experience, because that's a part of coaching the person to adjust their relationship with their dog, right? So I've seen a couple of those dogs we talked about last time since, and the cool thing that I look for now is not that everything is perfect as soon as the dog goes home, but that as we're doing these follow-up classes with the owner, that I could see them grasping the issues that they're making that are leading to the problems they're having and making the adjustments that they need to, right? Yeah. Which, with all of these dogs, we've noticed massive strides with. One of them in particular, so I saw yesterday, this was the first one we talked about last time, I believe, this dog, River, who was having the reactivity issues. I mentioned I went to their house to do the walk around the neighborhood, and I saw that there was just no direction being given, and that was the root of a lot of the reactivity issues. We saw her yesterday, and we started off, we went for a walk. Obviously, the weather has been kind of shit lately, so she hasn't seen tons and tons of dogs, but she has been able to make the adjustments we discussed as far as fixing the positioning and being more firm on the positioning. And the walk was literally perfect, right?
Heck yeah.
All corrections were given at exactly the right time. The motivation of those corrections was perfect. We saw one dog while we were out on the walk the first time and kind of chased him down. This is the funny thing, too, is it always works out where it's when you're looking for dogs, you can never find them, right? But when you're not looking for them, before you start training, it's they're everywhere, right?
Time.
You can't avoid the dogs. So we were looking for dogs. We finally found one. We had to literally basically chase them down. We jaywalked across the street and then ran a block down basically so we can get ourselves in position and get ready for the pass by. Same deal. Perfect. Lined up. Boom. Sit. Right. Got him into position. Dog came by. Didn't even look at the dog. It's perfect, right? So from there, we, because we weren't going to see that many dogs out on the walk, we decided to push it a little bit, go to the pet store with her, right? Same deal, hands off. I don't think I touched the dog the entire time. Walked in the pet store, gave her a quick little coaching before we walked in as far as, hey, just because we're going into, because sometimes this idea of going to a pet store, right, especially if you have a reactive dog, can be so daunting. It's it's you get it in your head that it's so much different than anything else that you were doing out on the street. When in actuality, it's not. Just the psychology is different, right? You feel because you're inside of somewhere and somewhere where you're normally going to see other dogs, it's you're going head first into the fire, right? Yeah. And that the escape is not as easy.
Yeah.
Right. So went into the pet store, same deal, right off the rip. Nice, good direction. I think he tried to pull over to sniff some of the treats one time, gave a nice, good correction, set that tone. Saw probably 3 or 4 dogs in that pet store. Same deal. Not a freaking peep. At one point, they had a grooming station. They had this freaking Great Dane, this giant dog that came barreling out of the grooming station, pulling the owner down and stuff like that. And we were 6 feet away from this dog. Didn't even look, right? So this is, and it was such a massive success because she was like, this is awesome. Like, I feel so much more in control, right? I feel like, I just understand what I'm looking for now, and that's the missing link, right? You got to be able to see it. You have to see how, when you're doing it wrong, how it's not working, identify the mistakes, and then see as you adjust those mistakes, how things start working, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, the pet store thing, I think a lot of it, like when you look at why people are so scared to go to the pet store, because we'll see this all the time. People with like formerly reactive dogs that'll just like, it'll be a year post-training and they're like, I just don't want to go to a pet store, right? Like I'm nervous about going to a pet store forever. And the dog's behavior has been fine over the last year, but like that, for whatever reason, is so daunting to them. And I think a lot of it is like making a scene in like a public place or something like that. People feel so embarrassed of. But one of the common things I'm always reminding everybody of, whether it's you're at the park, right, and your dog's reacting, or you go to a pet store and your dog's reacting, is all the other dogs are doing the same thing, right? Yeah. We had to go yesterday. 2 of our dogs needed baths. Kate took them out on like a walk. They got like muddy and disgusting and stuff like that. And because we're fresh off the holiday, dude, the grooming tub at the shop was just accounted for. Yeah. It was full, dude. They had like literally 12 or 15 grooms they needed to do yesterday, like something absurd like that. Yeah. So I was like, we just can't do it there. Yeah. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to be available until like 12 in the middle of the night. So we went to one of the self-serve grooming stations over at Crocker Park, like the Pet Supply Plus that they had over there. We walked in, and there was this old lady that had these 2 huskies, right? And she was taking them for baths. And, dude, it was a disaster. And nothing, listen, like I don't care, obviously, but this just, like, people get so embarrassed of their dog's behavior. This lady could care less, right? She had her 2 dogs there. The one is in the tub just screaming, dude. Like all the husky noises and stuff like that. And then the other one, she was like nervous to even let me into because the grooming area, it's like a fenced off little area, probably like 6 by 20 or something like that. There's grooming tub, and like a small little center grooming tub. So like multiple people can use it. And she had her 2 dogs there, and she was nervous to let me in because the other one, I guess, is like really bad. She was like, yeah, she's a rescue. She's really scared of new people and stuff like that. So she needed to go and like tether her off like into the corner and stuff like that. She was like nervous the dog's gonna like bite me or something, Jesus. And it's like, nobody cared that this dog was screaming in the tub and this other one was probably like a dick towards people and stuff like that. They just went in, right? And the exposure to those situations, right, for people that are training their dogs, even if your dog acts out a little bit, will continue to improve over time. So you just can't get too embarrassed by that kind of stuff, right? And then past that, continuing to expose your dog is so important, man. So another client I worked with, we did a follow-up lesson. Same deal. Dog did a board and train. It was a dog that we pulled from Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter. Serious, like, fear reactivity issues. I don't want to call it aggression because, like, the dog wasn't outwardly trying to bite people, right? Okay. But the dog was very, 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 very nervous of new people. Would definitely, like, growl, kind of show her teeth, stuff like that. And luckily, the lady that was going to foster her is winding up keeping her. Just because they had a great relationship from the shelter and stuff like that. So I want to be in like a perfect situation. But anyways, right, we had all these things we needed to work on with this dog, right? And the dog did phenomenal with it. But same deal, right? As we're working through the program, she's been home for maybe 2 weeks now. We've done 2 follow-up sessions. This was our second one that we did. I think this was yesterday as well. She's like, yeah, everything's going great. The dog had like resource guarding issues before. Dog's no longer guarding stuff for the owner. She can get the dog to release toys and treats, no guarding, no problems, anything like that. Dog is socializing fine with other dogs. She takes her on walks and does phenomenal on walks. She holds bed stays perfectly while guests are coming in the house and stuff like that, but she still gets very apprehensive of new people that are coming in the house, right? And again, you'll see this on the vlog page is going to post, I think, either today or tomorrow. I don't remember exactly what day she's going to post it, but we did film all this so you guys can see these lessons. So what I want to kind of start to try to do a little bit here is through these podcast episodes that we're having that are non-guests, I want to start breaking down some of the vlog content a little bit more so you have like conversational stuff that can go along with what you're seeing. You know?
Bike companion.
Yeah, it's like it's the vlog companion.
Yeah.
So, so this dog was doing fine with holding bed stays and stuff like that, but still very apprehensive of people coming in the house, right? She would sit on the bed, just, like anytime people would walk by her and stuff. And, if we had to look at a spectrum of progress this dog has made, right? And here's from when she started, and here's like her no longer doing anything improper anymore. She's went from like here to like here. You know what I mean? There's still a little bit more to go, but she's made such massive progress. And the owner was even like, she's good, she's done a lot better, right? I can manage her so much better with things like that, right? But like, there's still this little bit, right?
Yeah.
And this is an issue I see people fall into, right? Is they'll get there, right? And then they'll kind of plateau off a little bit, right? It's like they've made all the progress that they're almost comfortable making. You know what I mean? And that last little bit of progress you want to get comes from a couple of different things, right? It comes from you being very proactive about then pushing the envelope of exposure, right? What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that we're going to start chasing the challenging things a little bit more, right? We know she gets nervous around new people. We know she's established a couple of locations that she gets comfortable in. She comes to the shop now, and it's so funny, as we were having this conversation at the beginning of the follow-up session. We're in the lobby, and at one point I counted out, there was like 7 people in the lobby and like 2 dogs or something like that. There was so much going on, it was ridiculous. And this dog's just chilling on the bed over there. Perfectly fine. Couldn't even care less. And I told her, I was like, yeah, we've established this routine here. She feels safe. She feels comfortable here. She knows we're going to give good guidance and stuff like that. I was like, there hasn't been any problems with it, right? Additionally, right, she's done pretty well in some of these other field trip environments we've taken her on, like Home Depot or pet stores and things like that. She's done really good in those environments. But she hasn't quite generalized and established that her mom is going to be the one that gives the direction and guidance, similar to the case with River, the first dog that we talked about, in new places without me present, which is what's holding her back from getting to that place that she is at the facility, at home, at new places when she goes to. And that's going to start with her mom starting to get her out and about into these other environments where she might be a little bit apprehensive still, right? So maybe at Lowe's, when it's just the mom, she walks by people and stuff like that. And even though she's not outwardly acting out, she's like kind of tenses up a little bit. Ooh, there's a person there. Ooh, there's a person there. Ooh, there's a person there, right? And she's got work to do on is that. So by exposing her to that situation much more, as opposed to it only happening once a week, right? Or once a month, or once every 2 months or something like that, we start to neutralize a new location and help her feel safer in that location and feel more like mom is in control in that situation, right? And then the other big variable with things is just higher accountability for the improper choices, right? So what she, as I was talking to her, I could tell when she was talking about the issues in the house, what I was noticing her start to say, hang on a second here, shut up. What I was noticing her start to say was, yeah, people come over and, she does fine if we're just sitting there on the couch, but if people start moving around and stuff, that's where she starts getting uncomfortable, right? Or she was saying that the dog is like really weary of her dad, and same deal, like her dad, the second he starts moving around or talking with his hands and stuff like that, she starts getting apprehensive, right? Yeah. So what she was doing is she was adjusting to the dog, meaning she would notice the dog start getting uncomfortable, and she would have the people adjust what they were doing to minimize the stress being put on the dog, right? So she was kind of holding the dog to a higher standard by making her do the bed stay, and she would still correct her if she made her do the bed stay. But additionally, she was making people stop doing normal things that the dog needed to just get past, right? So she kind of plateaued the dog's success a little bit by just capping that threshold and not allowing people to feel comfortable and like they could be themselves, and the dog never getting used to those types of things. Now, obviously, we want to hold people to a higher standard from the standpoint of when we're doing these bed stays, doing these downstays, stuff like that. People can't mess with her. They can't go up and interact and pet and all that kind of stuff. But we want people to act normal and do the normal things that ultimately we want the dog to adapt to. So we're teaching the dog to adapt to these environments. And she, it was funny, at the end of the session, we're talking about that. I was like, that's really the big thing that's holding you back right now. She's like, you're totally right. I'm adjusting too much to the dog. I'm catering too much to the dog, right? So I recommended she needs to start getting her dog in those situations. And additionally, it doesn't happen that often, right? So she was saying, like, I only see my parents once a month, right? Like, I only have people come over the house once a month. So really, at the most, 2 times per month is this situation even happening. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that makes it harder to do, right? So I told her, I was like, 2 things need to happen. 1, you could up the frequency in which you're exposing the dog to those types of things through going on more field trips, going new places, and supplementing all of that in, right? Yeah. And if you can't do that, that's okay. You just have to be aware of the fact that the process of your dog starting to get more acclimated and comfortable to new people is just going to take longer, which is fine. Like with Vinny, I used the example of, because Vinny was kind of like that. For the first probably 6-7 months that I had him, I would make him hold bed stays anytime I had people come over the house because he would get really uncomfortable around new people. Same deal. And it took a while before he got really neutralized because same deal. It was only happening once a month. Like I don't have people coming over my house all the time.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
I was like, so that's one thing that you could do, right? Thing number 2 is when the situations are actually happening, make them as natural as possible. Do the things that you want to ultimately be able to do and hold the dog to a higher standard with it. Because if you're constantly limiting the things that you want to do, what's going to happen is you're stopping the dog or you're holding the dog back from making mistakes by keeping them under threshold, which are the learning opportunities.
Yeah.
So let's say the dog will hold the bed stay but kind of grumble or growl on the bed stay if people are just sitting there talking and not moving around too much. But if they really get up and they're moving around and somebody's going to the fridge to get something or walking past her bed, then maybe she makes a mistake and either gets off of the bed or barks and steps off or something like that. And in that moment is where we could really capitalize on that and give a nice firm correction for it and get the dog to settle back in, which will cause them to then be better with all the stuff that's under that threshold, right? So all of the things leading up to that point of just the chilling and hanging out and stuff like that, once we've capped it off here, right, and the dog made the mistake and we address that mistake, it makes everything before that easier for the dog then to be successful with because they learned. Right? They learned by us pushing that threshold. Yep. And then what we do is we push it a little bit more and we push it a little bit more and we push it a little bit more. And that's ultimately how we get that dog fully past those types of issues.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of it. So that was another kind of interesting one that we ran into and how we're kind of starting to troubleshoot that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think, you get so used to kind of molding your life around the dog.
Yeah.
That when it's time to kind of break that and like, hey, you have to mold to our life together. It's hard to, those lines kind of get blurred when you first get your dog back, I'm sure. Yeah. So it's just breaking down those.
It's like subconscious. You're totally right on that, right? Like we have all of these different like management techniques we used to put into place with our dog to try to keep them successful with stuff. And like they become subconscious to us that we just do them. Yep. Yeah. And it's very difficult to change that way that we look at the dog and change the way we look at how we handle the dog when we have guests come over or we take them out into public, whether it's go to a pet store, go to Home Depot, have a guest come over the house. Yeah, 100%. It can become very challenging for people, I think.
Yeah. It's rewiring your brain too, So.
Yeah, big time. So that's some of the stuff. Yeah. What else we got here? What else did I write down? Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is another kind of segue. That same dog that I was just talking about, right? The at the end of the lesson, right? People love doing this to me. They throw me curveballs, right? They take that whoosh, they throw that curveball, and I'm not ready for it. And people love throwing the curveballs right at the end of the lesson when we don't have a lot of time to talk about it.
Of course.
Right? So we got like 4 minutes left in the lesson, right? I got another one coming in very shortly after. And she's like, I wanted to ask you this. She's like, yeah, I need to introduce her to my cousin's dog or something like that. Like, how do I do it? I was like, well, like, is the dog just coming over for like a play date or like what's the deal? You know what I mean? Like, is your cousin going to be there also? Has she met the cousin? Like, there's a lot of variables for me to be able to answer that question effectively.
Yeah.
She's like, well, no, she hasn't met the cousins before. I was like, all right, well, she needs to get comfortable with them before we can really introduce to the dog because we can't really separate and be like, oh, we're socializing our dog now with both these new people as well as this new dog. Like the way we look at socialization, we typically always will do one or the other, right? So, so I want to either socialize my dog with a new dog around neutral things or with a new person around neutral things, but not both at the same time. She's like, oh, yeah, no, I understand that. She's like, I was thinking maybe they could just like drop the dog off and then I could socialize them. I was like, well, what's the point of that then? She's like, well, I'm gonna be watching the dog for a little bit next month. I was like, all right, well, how long's a little bit? She's like, well, maybe like 4 to 6 weeks.
Holy shit.
I was like, 4 to 6 weeks. I was like, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
I was like, what do you mean you're going to be watching the dog for 4 weeks? She's like, yeah, they're like going somewhere doing something. And like I got to watch the dog for a while. I was like, okay, well, I was like, this is a little different than like, oh, I'm just like having a housemate stay for the weekend or something like that. I was like, if you're going to be having a dog stay for a prolonged period of time like that, you are essentially, there is no option other than to go in it as if you own that dog now, right? This is now your dog, right? Because 6 weeks is way too long to just like wing things and like kind of keep the dog separate a majority of the time and just do little socials with them and stuff like that. Like I normally would recommend if you had like a dog staying with you for a weekend or even a week or something like that. Yeah. I was like, this is your dog now. Meaning, right? Like, and I don't know anything about the temperament of this dog. I was like, if this dog doesn't have any training and, you know, is kind of poorly behaved and jumps and counter surfs and gets into stuff and everything like that, and you let the dog for 4 to 6 weeks just run the roost in your house, that's how you build up and embolden a dog where you create massive problems amongst multi-dog households, right? Like massive problems you could run into through doing that. Because at some point, 4 to 6 weeks is enough time where 1, the dog is going to get very confident in doing whatever the hell it wants to do, and 2, your dog is going to see for a prolonged period of time that you are not in control of the environment around them, and they're going to start assuming those responsibilities of addressing those problems. And that's why we say all the time, most dog fights that we'll see typically are stemmed from one dog seeing another dog being poorly behaved and not seeing us be the ones that are stepping in and handling those situations. So they feel like they need to go in and discipline the other dog because you're not doing it, right? Yeah. And even with the most social dogs in the world, right, you could start to see that social dog will start to act in that way if put in that situation too much, right? Yeah. So how do you make that successful? We started breaking down first and foremost, you know, let's say you got a new dog. Let's say you have a dog and you got a brand new dog. Well, first and foremost, the last thing that I would do is right off the rip for the first week, have the dogs together 24/7 all the time, right? We got to make sure the dog is crate trained. We got to make sure that the dog is out with the other dog only in small bursts when food, toys, affection are not happening, and we can allow the dogs to just develop a small relationship with each other. And then while we're doing that, we would individually start setting rules and boundaries with the new dog, right? So I was like, even though this dog is not your dog, you have to have a way to be able to communicate and discipline this dog for improper behavior. So if it is jumping all over the place and barking out the window all the time and trying to get into your things, you have a way to be able to actually step in and stop those problematic behaviors, right? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that she needs to go out and buy an e-collar and do a training program or anything, but just some sort of baseline, like have a couple squirt bottles laying around the house, right? It's like the age-old easiest thing you could do if you have a brand new dog is get a freaking squirt bottle. Yeah. And if the dog is doing something you don't want, right? Give them a little spray with it. Now, is that going to work with every dog perfectly? No, but at least it will start to get you some headway for being able to give some discipline to the dog, right? You can have a pet corrector laying around, a little can of compressed air, give you the ability to step in and start interrupting things here and there. You can obviously make sure the dog wears a leash for a large majority of the time in the house so that you're not finding yourself wasting your breath constantly begging the dog to do things and not in a position to enforce it, right? You could set boundaries. If you don't want the dog going upstairs, dog starts going upstairs, you don't even need to say anything. You just grab that leash, pop, get them back down, redirect them off of it, right? They start jumping on something, you could physically get them off of it, right? You could, if you tell the dog to come, you need to get the dog to go outside and the dog doesn't want to, you can grab that leash and make them come, right? There's so much baseline communication and stuff that needs to go into play, but you gotta treat it like it's your own dog. And that was just so funny to me when she's like, yeah, it's gonna be staying for 4 to 6 weeks. 4 minutes left in the lesson. I was like, we'll talk about this next time. I was like, we'll talk about this a little bit more next time.
Always, yeah.
So that was some juicy stuff that happened also. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of that kind of stuff. That's what this week has really consisted of. It's just a lot of just troubleshooting lessons, still doing a lot of follow-ups, getting this last round of board and trains. I think they got about a week and a half left, getting them all ready to go home, kind of helping troubleshoot through some of those types of things. We got some new dogs that came in, 2 days ago. I think this would have been Tuesday. Yeah. 2 dogs that came in, getting in fights with each other in the house, and these dogs are monsters. They're so big. Dude, there's this one. He's like an American bulldog or something. His head is so big. I think I might have a picture of it.
Is it like Tuca?
Kind of. Hold on. I don't even know if this video really does it justice, but just wait. I think you'll see me pet him in a second.
Yeah, that's a massive.
Dude, he's so big.
Bully breed head right there.
He's so big. So whatever. So those two dogs are getting into it with each other, and they've done some training elsewhere, so it's not going to be that hard teaching a lot of the initial skills and stuff. And the positive is like, when we get into fighting dogs, the hardest ones are the ones that are just outwardly grudgy and aggressive towards each other, right? Mm-hmm. They're the ones that just on sight just want to get at each other, right? These are not those dogs, right? Mm-hmm. These, as we were breaking it down, very, very, very predictable fights, right? They've all been over food or toys. They've all been in situations where, like, there's just been improper supervision of them and stuff like that. Like, I think one happened when they had, like, a cousin or an aunt or something that was watching the dogs. One of them happened when, like, the fiance or the husband was, like, he decided that he was just going to, like, I think I remember this correctly when I was talking to her. He decided he was going to, like, feed them together after, like, not doing it for a while, and it turned into a fight. And just, like, just a lot of poor management of things. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, again, the dogs are not outwardly aggressive towards each other. They have really good training. It seems like the owners are just not really necessarily using that training very much. And, they were talking about, like, that American Bulldog's the younger of the two. And then the other one that's, like, the aggressor of things, like a German Shepherd that they have. It sounds like when that American Bulldog was a puppy, this German Shepherd just, like, bullied the absolute fuck out of this dog. And just created a lot of problems, I think, where, like, now the bullying is just escalating until it turned into, like, their last one was, like, a pretty serious fight that they got into with each other. And all of this comes down to being able to really effectively communicate with your dogs and manage your dogs and adjust your relationship you have with your dogs. Yeah. Right. I know. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is like, it's like a family situation, parents, kids, dogs involved, all this kind of stuff. And sometimes we just get so loosey goosey with stuff, sometimes it's just so the dogs do whatever. And the kids just love playing with the dogs, and the dogs are very good with the children, it sounds like. So it's like, there's so much fun, energy, this and that, you know what I mean? And there's just no rules, dogs do whatever the hell they want to do. There's no discipline for anything. There's no control over resources or anything. And we got power breeds, man. We got German Shepherd, American Bulldog, big, strong dogs that need firm direction, you know? And, that's going to be the root of a lot of their problems. That'll be an interesting one to follow here, because that's going to be a case in point example of it. Kind of like goes into like this whole conversation we're talking about from the last podcast episode and everything, where we were talking about like rehabilitation, like fixing problems and like realistic expectations and stuff like that. I can anticipate a little bit of issue with when these dogs go home, just from some of the conversations I've had. Like, I remember one of the first phone calls I had with, I think it was the husband. He was very much of the mindset of, he's like one of the first questions he asked was like, so are these dogs just going to come home and not fight anymore? I was just like, not really. I guess it's not really how it works,
that's
man.
Not how that goes.
Not really how it works. So we kind of had that conversation a little bit, and the wife is very sweet. She's very nice, but she was asking some questions. She had like a friend of hers forward her it was actually a Larry Crone video where he did some like live stream talking about fighting dogs and stuff like that. And again, we've talked before about like issues with some of the things he says. All the things he was saying, and I thought were very good. Like a lot of talking about like the relationship dynamics and things like that. But like one of the things he said in it, like it was like a blanket statement of, he just said like verbatim, like, I've never seen e-collars fix fighting dogs or something like that. And she sent it to me, and she's like, hey, somebody sent this to me. I just wanted to get your opinion on it because, I'm just so nervous. I really want this to work. And again, she's very sweet. Really, really, you could tell she sounds very committed to the process, and everything I've told her so far, she's been very understanding of, right?
Yeah.
So I had to explain. I was like, I was like, this is my problem with these blanket statements that he's made, right? Like, so in her mind, that immediately, how she interpreted what he said in that video was e-collars and using corrective devices and stuff like that doesn't work, right? It makes your problem worse, et cetera, et cetera. Where I know what he was actually trying to say, right? And I'm not trying to like misrepresent somebody here or anything like that. But what he was actually trying to say, per my analysis of it, was an e-collar alone is not the solution to this, right?
Yeah.
Just slapping an e-collar on and correcting the dogs and they try to fight each other and everything is not going to fix these problems, which I 1,000,000% agree with.
Yeah.
Totally agree with,
of course.
right? The missing link with it, though, is that an e-collar is the part of the process of fixing it because because the problem is the overall relationship that we have with the dogs, right? The overall ability to communicate effectively with the dogs, adjusting the relationship that we have with the dogs and getting them realizing, hey, just in general, we're going to be giving you better direction. We're going to be communicating more effectively with you. We're going to be advocating more effectively amongst the multi-dog household. And an e-collar is a part of the way that we're able to do that, right? So though I understand what he was saying when he said, I've never seen e-collars fix fighting dogs, I actually very much disagree with it because an e-collar mixed with all of the other things that he's talking about is a lot of the reason why we're able to fix these problems with these dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And again, this is coming from somebody that uses e-collars with all the dogs that he trains as well.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just kind of like a little annoying blanket statement thrown out there from somebody with a really large following that's confusing the this has been my problem all along, right? Is when you start getting too heavy into the like, we don't use high corrections and we don't do this and we don't do that. We don't use e-collars with fighting dogs or e-collars don't fix fighting dogs and stuff like that, is you give people the wrong message from the standpoint of they're like, well, that means I shouldn't use an e-collar with dogs that are fighting. That means that using an e-collar with dogs that are fighting is going to make things worse, which is not the case.
Yeah.
So
Focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah, focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah. Not that this this goes to them or anything, but I think in general, a few podcasts ago, we talked about like when, what fits in your lifestyle. Like, does a dog fit in your lifestyle and stuff? And I think just for like families in general, they have a brand new baby, right? Or toddlers, whatever.
And we're generalizing now. We're not talking about these
we're not talking about them at
specifically,
all. I'm just saying in general, like, and then they get a dog, and then if it's not the most perfect dog in the world, well, even if it was, it's still not just the dog, and it gets to do whatever it wants. Like, it's basically like having another kid on top of your other children, and it's a lot to juggle. I get it, but I think people really have the misconception, like, oh, it's like a dog, it'll be fine. Like, we don't have to do anything with that, and we'll have the family dog to be nice. But there's still so much extra work you're putting on top of whatever is happening in your life, And I think a lot of people get a dog and they're just not ready, especially if it has some sort of issue,
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, this is case in point example of just looking into the breeds you're getting and seeing if they're actually breeds you want, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're just not, we're not, God, this is going to be my blanket statement I make, right?
Yeah.
We're not seeing these cases of massive dog fights breaking out and like dogs getting injured and stuff like that with your fucking labs.
Yeah.
With your families that have 2 golden doodles. You know what I mean? It's just, we're just not seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does. We've had exceptions before to all those rules. Yeah. But generally speaking, when we have people reach out to us saying dogs are fighting in the home, right? Dogs are injuring each other in the house. It's your power breeds, man. It's your pitties. It's your German Shepherds, right? Yeah. It's your Rottweilers. It's your bully mixes. It's it's those types of dogs, man. And you start looking at that, and we were half joking, man. We were looking at these 2 dogs yesterday. We're taking them out. We're doing some training with them and stuff. I was like, damn. I was like, how'd you like to break up that fight?
No.
I was looking at this dog's head. Was this goddamn big. I was like, I don't think I would want to break up that fight.
No, for sure.
So I have high hopes for this family in particular, as far as these dogs don't seem that bad. They lived together for quite a while without any big problems.
Yeah.
They've only had one like serious fight. The other ones have all been like little squabbles and stuff like that.
Sure.
But it is going to take a massive adjustment on the owner's ends, as far as if they're going to be capable of doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask too, like, just for like the new trainers, like when you have a situation maybe like this or even worse, right? You have the two dogs, and they do have that kind of expectation, because we've been talking about the board trains, like, oh, is it the cure-all, thing? Like, how do you go about the conversation when it's something even more serious, like your two dogs are fighting in house, and like, hey, like you're gonna have to manage this forever, like how's that conversation go for you?
That's a good question. Totally, like, really highlighting the difficult parts of things, right? But here's the problem. This is where I think a lot of people make the mistake. They highlight the difficult parts in a way that gives no hope, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see people that say, no, this is just going to be a management case forever. This is never going to get that good, right? And blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends there,
yeah.
right? Where I always say, this could be very, very challenging, right? Obviously, fighting dogs, right, takes so much work because the root of the dogs fighting with each other is the relationship they have with the owners, not so much the relationship they have with each other, right? That's really where the problem stems from. But if you could step up and if you could be who you need to be for the dog, there is always a possibility of success with it, right? And I speak from personal truths, right? I've said a million times on this podcast, like, my two dogs, Deli and Vera, got into gnarly dog fights with each other. Like fuck each other up to the point where it's like, God, is one of these dogs going to fucking die? You know what I mean? Like, fucked each other up. And they live together. They're downstairs right now together. You know what I mean? They're fine. Right? Now, do we always in the back of our mind just stay aware of things? Yes. Yeah. But is it debilitating? No. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm like losing sleep over it. Like, they sleep in the bedroom together every night. You know what I mean? Like, and I fall asleep just fine knowing that they're together in the same room with each other, sleeping on dog beds next to each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's not impossible. You know what I mean? I think that's the important thing to look at, is like, it's not impossible. And it doesn't take immense amounts of work for me to do. You know what I mean? It takes immense amounts of discipline. This is the bigger thing, right? Everybody always looks at, and I see even trainers say this when it comes to, let's say, fighting dogs or serious behavioral cases and stuff like that. It's like, it's so much work to keep the dog safe, right? Or keep the dogs safe with each other. I disagree with that, right? It doesn't take immense amounts of work. It takes immense amounts of discipline to just know the things you can't do. Yeah. You know what I mean? That really is the variable with it. Is not you need to do all of these things. It's just these are some of the things you cannot do. Yeah. Right? And that's the biggest thing is, like, these dogs, for example, we're going to be sending them home with a list when they go home. Boom, 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 boom. These are all the things you're not allowed to do this first week. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And that's the shit that's hard for people sometimes. You know what I mean? Whether it's because you subconsciously just do those things, they're so ingrained into your routine, or this one's the real kicker sometimes, or you're just so selfish and you do those things for you and you don't care that they hurt your dog. Yeah. That's the hard pill to swallow right there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because that's most of this shit, man. Most of the shit we do with our dogs. On-leash greetings, case in point, right? Tell people all the time, don't do them, right? People like to do them still, right? Your dog's not getting anything out of it. You're getting something out of it. And even though you know it's detrimental to your dog's progress with results you're looking to get, you continue to do them because it makes you feel good that your dog is making a friend on the leash. Yeah. Giving your dog table scraps, right? Yeah. Bad for your dog. It's not healthy for your dog. Can create massive issues amongst multi-dog households and stuff like that. But you feel good that, oh, I'm giving them this snack. Yeah. Right? There's just so many little things like that you just, like, there's just some cases that you just can't do those things, and yet people continue to do them because they're too feeding your dog too. Dude, there was this dog that came in. I'm sure we talked about this a couple weeks ago. There was this dog that came in somewhat recently, right? That was like, it was a lab, and it was like 160 pounds, dude. This dog was so fat. It was ungodly fat. I'm literally probably one of the fattest dogs I've seen in the last 16 months, right?
Okay.
And got this dog down. I think the dog dropped like 20 pounds while it was with us or something like that. It was just shedding it off once we put it on like an appropriate diet and like feeding schedule. You know what I mean? And exercise routine and stuff like that. And, you know, the owner was like, I think she said something along the lines of like, I'm going to try to maintain this when the dog goes home. What do you mean you're going to try? You're going to try to just not give it extra scoops of the dog's not prepping. The dog's not meal prepping every week and like determining how much it eats. You are determining it.
Yeah.
That's a big one, right? Because we look at that again. We look at food equals happiness, right? Mm-hmm. But we know how much it hurts our dogs. A dog that overweight and the dog was really young too. It's like, that dog is going to have so many huge health problems later because of that. Because we can't control how much we're feeding our dog. Come on, guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's absurd. It's absurd. And these are the things that hold people back from getting where they need to get with their dog. Something as stupid as that, right? If you can't have the discipline to feed your dog an appropriate amount of food every single day, you're definitely not going to have the discipline to actually correct your dog for things that you should be correcting them for and set in place routines you need to be setting and stuff like that, right? And that's the hardest part. That is the variable of success with these types of things.
It really is.
And those are the conversations you have to have with people. And to answer your question of like, how do we get people to know this stuff? We tell them all of these things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you figure out a way to say it firmly but gently in a way that the owner is going to retain it, where we're not making fun of you. We're not blaming you. I mean, we're kind of blaming you, but like... It's not like, fuck you, you're doing everything wrong. Yeah. You just got to figure out how that person is going to respond to that information you need to give them.
Check.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's new.
Heck yeah, man.
What do you think?
It's great. I think, what's, just really quick, I guess, what the end of the year is here.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest new thing that happened this year for Miracle?
See, okay, so this is a good question. This is a hard question, sometimes not being prepared, only because of the fact that no, I'll tell you the reason. Sometimes the years blur together a little bit, and I forget what happened in what years.
Oh, I feel that.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You answer the question first.
Oh, okay. I made a lot of good connections this year. Spread my wings outside of people I just knew, right? I wasn't just doing stuff for friends, not, the friends are clients, but I went out and got new clients on my own, or made relationships through just cold calling or emails or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think working with intro building and working with like an actual giant development group was so eye-opening for me. And I think that was one of the best things that happened to me this year, for sure.
Okay, so I think mine, this is more of a general one as opposed to like a specific thing, is the ability to turn negatives into positives, right?
Yeah.
I think this year we faced, every year we face different levels of adversity. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like different issues or problems or this or that, right? Mm-hmm. And we've experienced a decent amount of adversity this year in all different forms. Yeah. All different forms, man. All sorts of different things. And I've never been the type of person that lets adversity like crumble me. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I always stand pretty tall in the face of adversity, and I always am the first person there with like, hey, we got to figure out a solution for this, whatever. But like, there's been times in the past that I've really kind of let it get me down a little bit, you know? I think I did a very good job this year of any adversity we faced, immediately, one, finding solutions for it, but two, trying to be a little bit more of a figure of I don't know, I guess a role model or whatever for everybody to kind of see as we were facing those different adversities.
Yeah.
As far as how to stay a little bit more confident through those types of things. And additionally, I think another big one is anytime we faced any sort of criticism, right? Whether it's from clients or whether it's from people on social media or any of those types of things, I have definitely tried to be conscious of finding any sort of truth within that criticism I can, no matter how dumb I felt like it was.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody is saying something, and there's times where like some of it, especially with the social media stuff, is kind of ridiculous, where it's like you're kind of just being crazy right now. But as an overarching theme, I tried to find some sort of like, what out of this criticism can I take as a learning opportunity? And especially with any sort of like client issues, like we don't experience it very often, but we definitely run into our fair share of like client issues here and there. Client gets upset over something or this or that. And I've really tried to figure out any sort of like, if there's one thing I could do to avoid that client criticism again in the future, what is it? How do I implement it? And just trying to take those all as learning opportunities. So I would say the turning negatives into positives from that standpoint, I think I did a pretty good job of this year.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
Heck yeah.
So
good answer.
I think that's an important thing for people to look at. You know, if you want to continue to grow, you have to look at your weaknesses. You can't get hung up in the successes of things.
For sure.
You know?
100%.
And if you could highlight even just 2 weaknesses, what are 2 things that are weaknesses of mine that may not be having huge issues right now, but create some sort of issue, and start working on those things?
Yeah. I agree with that.
So that's it.
Yeah. That was a good way to end it off. Top it off.
I would agree. Well, everybody, Happy New Year. Catch you guys in 2023.
Yeah.